Jackie Williams, and in this video I want to show you some tips and ideas for using the Gorgeous Leaves bundle. Hopefully you can walk away not only knowing how to better use these particular products, but with some tips and techniques that you can use with all of your crafting. So let's go to my work table. So this is the Gorgeous Leaves bundle, and you can see it's a beautiful selection of solid leaves and sort of more background and texture images. And then you've got the dies that cut around the stamps, and then some more detailed dies and a branch. Now you can see that there aren't any words in this stamp set, so I am going to combine it with the Heartfelt Wishes, one of my personal favorites. I just love the fonts and the words, and it's perfect for year-round use. So to start, I want to show you kind of a simple card and some little techniques, and then we will take the same card and step it up to something a little more involved. So I'm going to start by stamping this background stamp, this nice wood texture one. And I'm just going to stamp that in the mint macaron, just right here about 2/3 up on the card. And then what I'm going to do is take my basic gray ink pad, and I'm going to use this splatter stamp. Now I have found personally that I prefer to use my splatter stamps without a block, so that I can just get a little portion of the splatters and I can kind of control how much and where they go. So you don't have to have just a big image of splatters, you can just have little bits. And my second tip is when you die cut the leaves, you can see that they're quite detailed, and I recommend that you have one of these die brushes. So if you have the Take Your Pick tool, or if that's on your wish list, you can buy the die brush separately, and it just attaches to the same handle as your Take Your Pick tool. I find it's helpful to have the pick end and then the die brush on the other end. And you'll just brush like this, and most of those little bits will just fall right out. And then you've got your pick end right there if there's just a couple that you need to pierce out. And then it's nice and ready quickly and easily. So this is our finished card. You can see how I have the little splatters in the background, but not the whole image, just little bits. And I have a beautifully cut detailed leaf out of the copper foil. And then I've stamped the Much Gratitude in Early Espresso from the Heartfelt Wishes stamp set across the bottom. So we'll put that one over here. So next I want to take that card and we're just going to step that up a little bit. So we're going to stamp it with the mint macaron again, or ink up the background with the mint macaron, but this time I'm going to take gray granite and a sponge dauber and just daub a little bit of that gray color around some of the edges or wherever you want that to be. And then we're going to stamp that down in the same place. And you can see that now we've got a little bit of green and a little bit of gray for a little bit of a different look. And then also for this one, I wanted to take a little bit of that white edge off. So one thing you can do is take a very light color like gray granite or Sahara sand or crumb cake in your blending brush and just lightly brush along the edges. And you don't want too much, so it's not something that you really notice straight away, but it's just taking some of the bright whiteness out. So let me show you our finished project. So this is the finished one, and you can see that we've got a little bit of green and then some of that gray granite in there as well, and we still have the splatters. This time I've cut the leaf out of the rose gold metallic specialty paper, and it's not probably that visible, but I've taken the white edge off using that little bit of gray granite around the edge and then stamped my words. This time I used basic gray to go with more of the gray theme, and then added some gems with this one. And for our third version of this card, you can see we've just added a few more layers. We still have that Nature's Harvest background that we've had in this one, the papers. And then I've also added a layer of the cork specialty paper, and I have also added a second leaf. So we've got more of a contrast leaf and the pink foil leaf on top. Another thing you can do with these foil papers is you could use your Stampin' Blends and just give it a little bit of color, a little bit of depth, and then cut out your image. I don't know, hopefully you can see it on the video, but this is actually the same foil, but this one is just that little bit darker, and it's got some light and dark areas because I used the Calypso Coral marker onto the foil. So that's just another thing you can do with your foils. So there are the three versions of this, essentially the same card. You've got the timber background with the leaf on top, just with some different techniques and different layering. So which one do you like best? I personally like this middle one the best. I love that combination of the gray with the soft pink and the greens. Now for the next technique I want to share with you is taking some watercolor paper. Now this takes a little bit of time to dry. So basically what I've done here is I have filled a little dish with water and some gray ink refill. So I had a dish with basic gray, a dish with smoky slate, and a dish with actually Memento black. And then what I did is I watercolored some watercolor paper, and I used my brush that I used on the video a few weeks ago that's actually filled with water and drops of rich raspberry ink. So I think this is the lighter one. So when I painted it, you can see still you're not only getting the gray that's in the bowl, but you're getting little hints of that rich raspberry as well. And I just loved how these came out. So it doesn't really matter if it looks kind of, you know, not that great on the watercolor paper, because when you cut it out, you're only going to see little bits of it. You're not going to see the whole big picture, so it will look good. And you can always take your water painter and touch it up if you need to after the fact. So this is my finished sample using that technique. So I have more of a black leaf on the bottom and then a darker gray leaf on the top, and then, or the middle, and then that top one, actually the really pale gray, just kind of blended in too much. So I took my water painter and painted that one, the rich raspberry. Then I've just used some of the glitter paper and the Blackberry Beauty papers to accent. I've also used the Artistry Blooms sequins, which these ones are really great. There's 4 colors in the pack, but you can see that they actually reflect quite a few colors, so they match with a lot of our Stampin' Up! Inks and papers. Then for my next sample, I want to show you how you can achieve a multicolored look with these stamps, which is a technique that I've shown before, but it's such a good one. So I'm going to use Petal Pink and Calypso Coral and Cinnamon Cider. And you'll need sponge daubers, or you could use a blending brush, but sponge daubers work too. So what I'm going to do is ink it up entirely in the Petal Pink. And then I'm going to take my Calypso Coral and just ink it up a little bit there in the middle. And then I'm going to take my Cinnamon Cider and just go along the edges here. Now you could spritz it at this point with water just to get the inks to blend, or just stamp it down. And then you'll get this beautiful multicolored leaf. So let me show you the finished project with that. And this is one that I actually showed in my gifts video, but just wanted to tell you a little bit more about it in this video. So first of all, on the box, I have used these little leaf images, which is actually just one stamp, so it's really quick to just stamp the whole thing. And then on the tag, just did that same thing that I did on the first cards, where I've got the timber background and then the copper leaf over top, just nice and simple. And I've used the heartfelt wishes for the 2U, and then slide that off. And then inside our craft box, I've got a set of 4 cards. They're all the same, and envelopes, which fit perfectly into these boxes. They're really great. So I have done that technique that I just showed you where I've inked up the stamp just like that, and then just stamped it 4 times. Used the heartfelt wishes there at the top, and then just did some layering with copper foil and craft paper and petal pink paper with the new Hive 3D folder, which is coming in January. Such a nice one. And then it just makes a really nice, fairly simple, but very nice set of cards. So I chose to use the stamp on a block so that I could put them in different orientations so they weren't all in a row. That's what I wanted for this one, but I'll show you something else where I use the Stamparatus. So some other samples using the gorgeous leaves are these ones, just some Christmas cards. So in the die set, there's a branch. So the branches are really quite useful for even mixing in with your other things. So in this case, I used the Stitch Stars dies. And again, the heartfelt wishes across the bottom, and just made some very simple and sweet Christmas cards. Now here's another idea. This one actually uses a different leaf set, but it's the same concept, and you could use these leaves for it. Basically just stamp or die cutting and leaving the outline behind rather than using the leaf, and then just putting something pretty behind. In this case, I just used strips of pretty metallic paper and just created a little background there. And then my last sample, this one I did use the Stamparatus because I did want them perfectly lined up, and again use the sponge dauber technique and just stamped them all neatly in a row using the hinge step on the Stamparatus, and then just stamped the heartfelt wishes across the middle and added a few gems. So very, very simple, but I think quite beautiful. I love these particular colors together. So there we go. I hope that gives you some inspiration in using your Gorgeous Leaves bundle. If I can answer any questions, please leave them below. Leave me a comment. I do love to hear from you, and I'd appreciate it if you would like this video and share it and subscribe to my channel while you're here. And I will see you next time. Happy stamping, everyone. Bye-bye.